Welcome back to Kris versus Everybody. This is a podcast where I talk about anything unedited and uncensored. This podcast is brought to you by the Crisscross Studios YouTube channel. Go ahead and click subscribe and click the notification bell on YouTube and follow the podcast on Spotify to be notified of new episodes. Thank you for your support. Now I'm going to get right into it. What happened this week? I'm not going to sugarcoat it or anything because this week was supposed to be the 24th anniversary of 9/11. However, events that occurred the day before on September 10th, 2025 have pretty much overshadowed the significance of one of the worst days in American history. And which for some people could be the worst day in American history for some people. I'm talking about last week, the death of far-right political personality, Charlie Kirk. Now, condolences to the Kirk family. He's leaving behind his wife and kids. He shouldn't have been shot. No one deserves just to be shot. People should be able to speak freely, express their thoughts without being murdered. That's my take on everything. And I wanted to do a podcast right after the death, but I didn't want to be part of the backlash of people going off right after the death. So I'm going to do my podcast today, talking about Charlie Kirk and the significance of the assassination, what we should take from it. Again, I say condolences to the family. He should have been able to express his thoughts without being murdered. Whether you agree or disagree, you should have the bandwidth for dialogue. It shouldn't have to end with a bullet in your neck. It shouldn't end with Republicans blaming Democrats for a shooting. It shouldn't end in people trying to start race wars, as you saw in most world cities. And by the way, for the people who wanted to start a race war after Charlie Kirk got shot, the shooter was white. So sit the fuck down. Through dialogue comes change. If we can't sit down and listen to a guy talk out of his ass, because that's what he was doing at the university. If you can't understand that he's just trying to get you riled up, then I don't know what to tell you. If we can't come together and agree to disagree or agree to move the country forward, what the fuck are we doing? Minnesota Governor Tim Walz said it best. He said, and I quote, "An open forum for political dialogue and disagreement was upended by a horrific act of targeted violence. In America, we don't settle our differences with violence or at gunpoint. I'm praying for Charlie, his family, and his young children." Tim Walz, he was the vice presidential candidate running with Kamala Harris in the 2024 election. Both him and Kamala Harris both denounced the shooter and any other political, quote unquote, political assassinations or gun violence, and said that we must do better in this country. Donald Trump, however, blamed the Democrats, said it was a Democrat plant ordered to shoot Charlie Kirk. without any evidence. Ladies and gentlemen, if you voted for Donald Trump, I just don't want to deal with you anymore. If you were my friend and you voted for Donald Trump, or if you listened to Charlie Kirk or any of his things and agreed with it, we don't need to be friends anymore. We do not need to be friends anymore. Because if you believe what Charlie Kirk said, most of the stuff he said, and I don't care about the stuff that he said about Jesus Christ, and we'll get to that in a second. I care about the stuff that he said about Black people, alternative lifestyle people, women, Black people, etc. If you agree with what Charlie Kirk said, then we can't be friends. I don't agree with Charlie Kirk's words. That doesn't mean I wanted him dead. And those who did want Charlie Kirk to be dead, you're also the problem. I don't want to be your friend either. People should be able to speak their mind. And if you disagree with it, walk away. Not kill the guy. It's crazy. And I want to talk to the supposed Christians out there. Because as soon as that man got shot, y'all went to his defense to say, oh, he was a man of God. He spoke his truth. He was fighting for Christianity. He was a true Christian, and everything should be A-okay. And y'all should be ashamed of yourselves for letting this man die. Fuck y'all too. Because in the United States, especially among the conservative evangelicals, Christianity and political ideology are often intertwined. Charlie Kirk's ability to blend faith with political with his political shit makes him a figure that feels like a spiritual and political champion rolled into one. Defending him for Jesus, quote unquote, can feel like defending both their faith and their political tribe. So I understand if you feel like, oh my God, he loves Jesus, he might be with me. But if all you see on TikTok and Instagram is him talking and defending Jesus and not listening to the stuff that he says on live TV about Black people, Black women in particular, calling Asians chinks, saying Black women don't have the intellectual capability as white people. However, they're the people who did all the math to put men on the moon. You're talking about this Charlie Kirk? I don't give a fuck if you like Jesus. Who gives a fuck? Who cares? Who cares if you love Jesus? Judas loved Jesus. When people defend a leader solely because they stand for Jesus, they may excuse behavior, rhetoric, or policies that contradict the very values of compassion, humility, and honesty that Christianity teaches. Now, this can create a disconnect between faith and action. If Christians defend problematic behavior just because the person claims to be pro-Jesus, outsiders may see this as hypocrisy. You're damaging the credibility of Jesus Christ and faith. You're making Christianity look more like politics and power. It's supposed to be about love, grace, and truth. Charlie Kirk did not say a lot of truth. He said a lot of his own feelings. He said a lot of truth to him. But we all know, especially on this podcast, that truth and facts are two different things. Reducing someone's entire platform to their Christian so they're good oversimplifies complex social, economic, and political issues. It prevents critical engagement with whether their policies actually help or harm communities, including fellow Christians. Public figures can use faith as a branding tool. That's exactly what he did for a lot of my friends, or so-called friends, that have now exposed themselves for who they really are over this past week. They appeal to religion for legitimacy, even if their actions don't align with biblical principles. This allows charismatic personalities to manipulate believers who equate defending their faith with defending the individual. If defending a political personality becomes synonymous with defending Christianity, people start to conflate the two. That's what we don't want in this country. Faith risks being reduced to partisan loyalty. That's why you see a lot of Christians vote Republican, even though the Republican policies don't help them. But since y'all think I don't know my shit, I will gladly let you know what I really think about religion and the teachings of the Bible. A really strong biblical example of this whole dynamic that we're seeing today is found with the Pharisees and the religious leaders during those biblical times with Jesus. Now, the Pharisees fiercely defended their religious identity, traditions, and public displays of faith. To people, they looked like the most pro-God leaders, but Jesus consistently called them out for hypocrisy, honoring God with their lips while their hearts were far from him. That was Matthew 15, 8 and 9. Now we're going to go to Matthew 23, 23. They put loyalty to tradition. I can't speak. They put loyalty to tradition and appearances above living out justice, mercy, and faithfulness. I think that's what Charlie Kirk did most of his life. And as he's looking up from hell while I'm doing this podcast, because he's not in heaven right now, I just need y'all to know that I'm speaking truth and fact. Because this is the Bible. So it's truth and fact at the same time. Can't deny it. They confuse religious identity with righteousness, just as some today defend a person for being Christian while ignoring their actions, like Mr. Kirk. Another example was King Saul. He was anointed king and chosen by God. But when he repeatedly disobeyed, he excused his actions, claiming it was for God. And this was going to blow your minds. False prophets, appearing righteous but misleading. Donald Trump, Charlie Kirk, a lot of your Republican representatives in Congress right now, RFK. Jesus warned us about this in the book of Matthew. Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. You will recognize them by their faults. This reminds us that simply claiming to represent God is not enough. We must examine the fruit, the actions, the impact, and the consistency with Christ's teachings. So the takeaway from this whole week is that Scripture shows us repeatedly that defending someone just because they claim to stand for God can be dangerous. Truth and true alignment with Christ is proven not by words or labels, but by the fruit: humility, justice, love, and truth. Four things that Charlie Kirk publicly has not shown us. So please do not defend this man by saying, oh, he was a Christian. Don't bash him. He's a good person. He fought for civil rights. What fucking civil rights did he fucking fight for? Don't worry, I'll wait while you figure it out. Charlie Kirk was a horrible man. Charlie Kirk was just horrible. He didn't deserve to die. He didn't deserve to be shot. And condolences to his family. But he was a horrible man. I can't defend him. And I can't defend people who defend him. So that's been another episode of Kris versus everybody. See y'all next time.